We have two groups that meet at St. Peter's. And in the midst of all of that, I was asked to be on the board as well as a trainer representative. So EFM is kind of like in my blood. It's a way of life, as someone has said, and I really love sharing that way of life with other people. Leanne, do you want to say anything?
Kia ora tātou. My EFM whakapapa began with a phone call one day in 2014 from the venerable Tricia Carter, who I had met when I was an independent student doing my theology degree in Auckland, and most of my papers were at St John's Trinity in Meadowbank. And Trish said, I'm chair of this group for education. It's called Education for Ministry. And I said, oh yeah, I know about it. I've had friends who've done it. Oh, and you've never done it? Well, no, I haven't, Trish. Right, well, we're looking for more representation from the wider church. Would you like to be the Presbyterian on the board? Now, we talk around the Wellington area about being Judith, don't we, Mrs. Wigglesworth? I talk about being Trisha'd. So I came on the board and was on the board for a while, getting to know what everything was, and hearing about this place called Sewanee in Tennessee. And during COVID, we had to go on Zoom, and Tricia decided she needed to come off, and no one else seemed to want to do it. So I said I'd be the board chair. And for better or worse, I've been the board chair ever since. And I am planning to step down in May from both the board and the chair. But I'm more than prepared to come back to the board after I've had a break. But time for someone else to be in the hot seat. I hadn't done the program, and I always felt quite a bit like a fraud for not having done it. Now, I should also say I had met Jean when she was in Auckland. I knew her as Sister Jean. And she was very gracious and never twisted my arm about it. I didn't even know she had that group at St Paul's when we were doing CPE together. And so sometime, you know how COVID has kind of screwed with our sense of timing. 2022, 3, 4, 5. 2022, I began the 4-year course with Raywin Bakan as my mentor out in the hut. And we met in person for 2 years in the same room, and that's where I met Mike. And then some of the group had finished, and we decided we would start a Zoom group, which we did the beginning of 2024. And that group's now just going into its 3rd year. And we had got small last year. One of the group from the previous year had decided they couldn't do it anymore. We were able to just keep going, and this year we have had a returnee, and we have had some more join us, someone from the States who's doing his 4th year and has moved to New Zealand, and some new people, and someone who has done their full year but is wanting full 4 years, is wanting to do the wide angle. So we are now a Zoom group of 9 meeting on Wednesdays from as far north as Kaitaia, just out of Kaitaia, and as far south as here in Wellington. And then last year I was told in 2024 that the summer conference was coming up, and really, Leanne, you are the board chair, so really you should go. I have to admit that in 2020, at the end of 2024, I was not keen to be considered to think about going to the United States, given everything that was happening. But Jean, as I think I said to you at one point, we had a discussion about the fact that we began to realise that actually that was perhaps a gift we could give to our friends in the US, was our presence there. The interesting thing that of the Canadian board, only one was prepared to cross the border and come down. So the impacts of what has happened in the last couple of years are very real, even if they often seem in the background when we're conversing with our friends in the US, our EFM friends. So that's my EFM antecedents, and I am sitting here in my office in Wellington, and I can no longer see the harbour. That's the weather we've got at the moment, so our turn. Now, Jean and I were talking about this, finalising things earlier today, and we both realised that one of the things we wanted to share with you was a song that was shared with us at Sewanee by a singer. But we also wanted to introduce you to
Sewanee.
Welcome to Sewanee, EFM Sewanee, Tennessee, celebrating 50 years. The first thing you might come across if you go for a coffee, sorry, the photos were taken on my phone, is this lovely little songbird and another wee beastie who was very keen to have some food but didn't want to get too close. We had, this is the chapel, Jean, the chapel of the apostles, am I right?
Yeah, yeah.
And these amazing icons you can see down here. So this was where we had our service on the Thursday evening.
It's an amazing building because it's amongst a lot of trees, and the way that they've designed it, it just feels like even the chapel itself is a whole lot of trees.
The sound's great too. This is the dining room. It's all very impressive, dating from 18. Is it 200
Well, the dining
years
room's
old?
dining room's not quite that old, but the
No.
university is early to mid 1800s. Yeah, because the university began before the Civil War, and then it was just damaged during the Civil War, and then they rebuilt.
So when you go in, this is what you see in the dining room. And I took this photo and sent it back to my daughter in New Zealand, who came back with one word: Hogwarts.
Hogwarts.
And this was our little cottage that Jean and I shared with Father Chris Halliday and his wife, Helena, which was very comfortable and quite nice to get away.
Just across the road from the School of Theology. Yeah.
And this is Jean presenting Faith Grounded in the Whenua, which was our short course we developed, and which, when we shared it with the folks in Sewanee, they said, we'd love to have it. So we said, okay. And then they said, well, if you send it to us in e-form, we will print it and put it into everybody's swag bag. So there are somewhere between 100 and 200 copies of Faith Grounded in the Whenua floating around the United States.
The reason why I've got a raincoat on is because it was incredibly cold. The air conditioning was really cold, and so I had to put a raincoat on to stay warm.
And we had also just had a downpour, as in their thunderstorms are something to behold. Really are. These are some odd photos. This is a group I was at dinner with on Saturday night. None of whose names I can remember, but I remember them as a group because during the course of the evening, my phone went and it was my daughter saying, we had church with the difference this morning, because of course Saturday night in Tennessee is Sunday morning in New Zealand, and the Sunday morning was Pentecost Sunday, but our congregation had got to church to discover it was less Pentecost and more Noah's flood, with about an inch of water through the Naya Union Parish Church because a pipe had burst. So we shared that little bit of laughter. Tarasogas is the Reverend Tarasogas is the author of The Non-Binary God, and she came to Jean's workshop, so I got a girl fan selfie photo with her. This is the lovely Lily Lewis, and we will be listening to a song she shared with everyone there on the evening. And this is the amazing, I've got to get this right, Reverend Canon, is that right, Jane?
Dr. Stephanie Spillers, yes.
Who wrote that wonderful interlude book we had a few years ago, The Church Cracked Open, and has since done some work with the ones she calls the nuns and duns, the folks who are, millennials who are done with church or have never been part of church. And she was the opening address, which was great. And I think that might be it. And here we are. Jean took part in the final service, and we're here with Kevin Goodman in the back, who's the executive director, and Helena Thornton and Christopher Halliday from the UK. So we just put those, and it was sunny a lot of the time, and it was incredibly warm and muggy. So that is Sewanee. Jean.
So throughout the conference, there was a combination of sessions that everybody was in together, and we would then break into smaller groups to reflect on the joint session. And then there were other workshops that people could choose into. So after the keynote address that Stephanie gave us, we were divided up into groups of about 20 people. And we were asked to, a number of us had been given the task of being facilitator for that group. So I'd been asked beforehand if I would be facilitator of one of the TRs. And so we went off into that group to decide how we wanted to reflect. And then we had another reflection like that, which everybody took part in. And the thing that we reflected on was the Song of Lilies. Now, Lily is a woman from New Orleans, and Kevin Goodman is absolutely infatuated with her music. He's not infatuated with her so much. He happens to be queer, and he's married to Anton, and they've been married for a long time. But he loves Lily to death, and they've become really good friends because he has felt like her music is so evocative and so expressive of deep things. And so she was there on one of the nights, and we listened to her sing. But we also had a chance to reflect on one of her songs. And so Leanne is going to play it for us. We've put the words into the chat so that you can follow the lyrics if you can't quite understand what she's singing. And what we're going to do is we're going to listen to the song, and then we're going to break into breakout groups, probably. And we've got a couple of questions that I'm going to put up into the chat for us to talk about in those groups. But first, we're going to listen to the song.
Here's hoping this works. People hear that?
Yep. Oops.
My American heart wants your baby to be born healthy, wants your son to make it home from the war, fully able to rejoin his people. My American heart wants your job to help you feed your family, hopes to let you build a home that houses generations of joy. My American heart knows you're more than just an able body, hopes if your able body ever falters, your wellness won't have much in the way. I hope your children and grandchildren become curious and kind, but above all, I wish them safety from without and within. My American heart wishes safety for my own family too. Don't wanna have to keep them safe from you, but nevertheless, here we are in a difficult conversation. Well, that just might go on for years, but in this difficult conversation, I want you to know I can hear you, know I can see you, say you know I still pray for you. My American heart. One that just might go on for years. Within this difficult conversation, I want you to know I can hear you, know I can see you, say no, I still pray for you. My American heart.
So we're going to go into breakout groups now, and I have put 2 questions up on the chat for you to consider. One is, what does Lily's song evoke for you? And what does it leave you wondering about? If you can't remember what I've said, what questions I've asked, just click on the chat and you'll see them there. Mike is going to put us into groups. So it's lucky dip.
It's going to go into 2 groups randomly, so I've got no idea who's finishing up where.
Lucky dip. And we'll see you in 10 minutes.
Yeah, lovely. I was about to ask you. Right, I better set a timer.
Yeah.
Okay, going now.
There was some rich conversation in those breakout rooms where our lot were left with a, good old EFM apply question. So what is the one thing that I am being called to that will be measurable and that I can report back to someone else about that comes from having reflected on Lily's song? For me, when I first heard the song, I remember being struck by feeling a little bit like an outsider. It did feel like a song written to the American people. So my American heart speaks to your American heart. And I was quite surprised at how I felt slightly like, oh, I'm not sure I quite fit here. And then I, challenged myself. What do you mean? The things at the heart of what she's talking about are absolutely something that we all need to be addressing in our community contexts. But it made me then start to think about my own cultural context, which was in lots of ways a very useful thing. And my cultural context is indeed not like Lily's cultural context. There's no way I can really understand what it's like for her to have grown up in a society where her people are always considered to be dangerous people, when in fact they're not the dangerous ones. I guess there's a bit of a crossover maybe into Aotearoa where Māori are, way overrepresented in our prison system, in arrests and in the statistics that of people who struggle to make ends meet and all of that kind of stuff. So there are some parallels, but it is a very different environment, a very different situation. And so that kind of moment of feeling like, oh, I feel a little bit excluded by this song, my American heart. But it does make me have to think about how do I address the issues in my cultural context that need to be addressed in the way that she has addressed some of the issues in her cultural context. So her song then became for me kind of like a role model, not this is what you should do, but this is the kind of way you could be as you address it in your own place. Yeah. Leanne's going to talk about a different reaction when she first heard the song. But first of all, she has to unmute herself.
You'd have thought I'd have got the hang of it by now. So I did recognise that she was writing for her people. And there were several things that struck me. One of the, as she went through the song, I thought, oh, this thinking applies to us in Aotearoa, New Zealand as well. We can't pat ourselves on the back and say, oh, that's very sad. Isn't it very sad for them? Because actually we are going down a similar path. And I was saying in our breakup, what do we do to make sure we don't go there completely? We start to pull back. So I was very much, and it was the pathos in it. It was this is a lament in a way. It was both a benediction, which is what she called it for us, but I heard it as a lamenting, but also the big heartedness of it. My American heart hopes this for you. Praise this for you. Praise that your son. I just wanted to cry at that. Praise. Where is it? Wants your son to make it home from the war, fully able to rejoin his people. And I thought, oh my gosh, you nailed that one on the head. I hope your job lets you feed your family. And that's such a real issue for us as well. I hope your job lets you build a home that houses generations. That's an issue for us as well. Knows you're more than just an able body, hopes if your able body falters, your wellness won't have much in the way. That is an issue for us as well. I hope your grandchildren and your children become curious and kind, but above all, I wish them safety from without and within. And this, this next verse, I'm going to put a bracket around the American. My heart wishes safety for my own family too. I don't want to have to keep them safe from you. But nevertheless, this is where we are. And we're in a difficult conversation, one that might go on for years. Now, I would reflect on this, if I was doing it here, to say, one of the bits of culture for us in New Zealand is we like to get things done. Right? We want to move on. We want to leave things in the past. That was then, this is now. Let's just move forward. It's a very, I would say it is a very Pākehā European viewpoint. She is saying this is a difficult conversation and it's not going to be over tonight. It is going to have to take time because we have to listen to one another. And I'm reminding myself, as I say this now, that's as much to me as to anybody else, especially in an election year. But I want you to know I can see you, I can hear you, I still pray for you. My gosh, those lines are so challenging. And that's what happened to me as I sat in that beautiful hall and listened. That was very, challenging. So yes, initially like, oh, this is for her people. Oh, no, it's not. It's for mine as well. I just need to take the American out and go, my heart. So yes, she is both speaking into, like the prophets, a particular context, but her words have a prophetic ring that go beyond that. And this was one of the beauties of the 2 full days we had, and not so much Sunday morning. Well, yeah, the Sunday morning too, the 2 half days. You were doing EFM. You were doing TRs all the time without thinking about it. It was just so immersive. And one of the things that I was like, oh, I'm starting to get this even more and more. So yeah, that song is one of the big things I have taken away with me from the trip to Sewanee.
Great. Thanks, Leanne. I think my experience of the song also speaks into my experience of the conference, in that I think my nature is to kind of be all in. You know, when I'm somewhere, I'm fully present to the people and what's going on there. And often it doesn't take me long to feel at home because of that. But often in doing that, I try to become like the people I'm with, a bit like a chameleon maybe. And I have to remember that I'm from my own context. And in fact, it's not as simplistic as, yes, I'm one with you guys now. But that I have a different way of being and seeing. And I can be as empathetic as I can, but I still won't actually know what the reality is for those folks. And the Episcopal Church in the United States is not like the Anglican Church in New Zealand. Not everybody who was there was Episcopalian, but a lot of them were. And it's the Episcopalian Church in the States is a much more kind of structured, not so laissez-faire as the New Zealand, all of New Zealand really, but you know, in comparing one kind of branch of the Anglican whānau with another branch of the Anglican whānau, they're much more kind of people do things in a right and proper way. And I think particularly maybe New Zealand's Anglican Church were a bit like that once, but yeah, we're much more kind of like, oh, she'll be right. And so that's another one of the things that I often experience when I'm with folks in Sewanee. However, I think there's a thing about EFM in itself that is encouraging of the folks who come from that more Episcopalian background to be a bit looser, to be a bit more open and playful, and allow spaciousness for ideas and imagination. It's kind of inherent in the whole kind of theological reflection process and in the theology of the texts that we read that invite us to not just have one way of looking at something. And so I think in going to Sewanee, I kind of experience a difference because they are different, but I also recognize a kind of affinity, and I think they in return love it when Kiwis come, because there is this real kind of recognition of something in us that they long for. Yeah, so it's a really interesting dynamic. And if anybody ever does get the opportunity to go and be particularly part of an EFM event at Sewanee, I think it's really worth it, because a bit like we do when we share our spiritual autobiographies right at the beginning of the year, and so our group goes deep straight away. When we have that kind of EFM ethos in common, it enables us to go deep very quickly. Hence, Jenny, all of those friends of Paul Dyer's who, they were genuinely friends with him, I'm sure. They're not just people he met, you know.
I
So
can
we're going to
only-
move on to...
Sorry,
Oh,
Jean, can I just say, I can only endorse what Jean said. On the Saturday night at dinner with that group, one of the men out of the blue said, "Oh, New Zealand, what's the story behind the member of parliament who's being censured?" So this was just after the haka. And I'm going, I did not expect to get that question in Sewanee, Tennessee.
Mm.
So that was very interesting. So yeah, it is this, and they were incredibly appreciative of the non-US arrivals. So that included us, it included Canada, David from Canada, and Chris and Helena from the UK. I'm glad we went then, and I'm glad we're not trying to go now, quite frankly. But yeah. Back to you, Jean.
So we're going to move on and share a little bit about a couple of the events at Sewanee. And I was invited to do two things. As I said, after Stephanie Spellers had done her keynote presentation, we were divided into groups of about 20 to go off and do a theological reflection based on what we had heard. And I decided that, because I was asked to do one of those, to lead one of those. So, yeah, off we went. And I decided that the way that we would begin would be to do a bit of whakawhanaungatanga. Now, is there anyone in this group that doesn't know what I mean by that? I'm happy to explain it if you don't, but whakawhanaungatanga means it's like we're kind of creating relationship. We're becoming family. But when I said that's what we were going to do, everybody fell about laughing. They thought I was using a swear word, whakawhanaungatanga. So I had to write the word up on the whiteboard and then break it down into its components and then explain what we were going to do. So I asked them if they would share where they were from and something about their family of origin and then something about their own name. I thought I'd just make it as simple as that to try and do a really brief overarching kind of pepeha. And I explained that in Māori circles, this is the way people introduce themselves. They don't start with, I'm Jean and I'm a priest. They start with where you're from and who you come from, and then you introduce yourself. So we went around the group and it took quite a long time with 20 people. But the thing that astounded me was in this group in which there were no Indigenous people. Nobody talked about having come from somewhere outside of the United States as their place of origin, which completely shocked me. Anyway, we went on and we did the theological reflection, and everybody really enjoyed doing it in the way that we did it and found that really powerful, etc., etc. And one of the spin-offs was that a number of the people who were part of that TR decided on the back of having had a great time that they would come along to the other thing that I've been asked to do, which was to do a workshop introducing our Faith Grounded in the Whenua short course. And as Leanne said, everybody had been given a copy of it in their grab bag. But I realised that I needed to rethink how I was going to structure it, because I was going to have to start from scratch and introducing the people who were coming to the workshop to a whole lot of things, including language and what the words mean. People were asking me, what is this word, WHENUA? You know, they knew what faith grounded in the meant, but they didn't even know how to pronounce the word whenua. Of course. And so I ended up making, and I was saying this to Leanne earlier today, I made a whole lot of documents to give to them, but I made them on somebody's computer in Sewanee, so I don't have those documents anymore. First of all, I made a vocab list And then I thought, in order to be able to even pronounce these words, we're going to need to do some work on pronunciation, vowels. So I planned to teach them the a, e, I, or u, waiata. And once we'd done that, we then did the work of the pepeha whakawhanaungatanga, but I broke it down a bit more, and we did 2 rounds. The first round was, having learned my lesson, where did your forebears come from before the United States? And then where is the place that that your family goes back to in the United States? And then what is your family, or what are your family names? So the first round was that kind of looking back, where you're from and who you're from. And then the second time round, I asked them to talk about a piece of geography that they identify with as being a home geography, and a body of water that they identify with as being home water, and then their name and what they like to be called. This took about 2/3 of the workshop. So before we'd even talked about the course, we'd kind of done it, in practice. And it was powerful. Even after the first round, there was this different feel in the room. And then by the time we'd done the second round, it was palpable. We'd really shifted, and we were whānau. And not only were we whānau, but people had connected with why we're whānau and where they have been gifted the ability to be whānau from. And so we then went on, and I shared the reason why we developed the course in the first place in response to political issues that were going on for us, and needing to ground our faith in our land, and the need to be honouring Te Tiriti o Waitangi. And so we had to explain about Te Tiriti o Waitangi and the history of that, and then talk about how, about the book of Huia Come Home and what that's addressing. And then a little bit, by that stage, we'd almost run out of time, about how it was to run the courses. And people were so excited, so enthusiastic about this. And everybody wanted to talk about it afterwards. And 2 people came down and said, "Can we just talk to you?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And they said, "We've never met each other before, but when we heard each other say that we had the same geographical place that they connected to and the same piece of water that they connected to, we knew we must somehow be related." And in fact, they weren't related by blood, but they were definitely related by family connection. So the uncle of one had been great mates with the father of the other, or something like that. So that was my experience of bringing who we were to this kind of foreign place, but everybody in the room was so ready to receive it and so ready to participate in what it was that we were offering, which I think comes directly out of the EFM whakapapa. Is there anything you want to add, Leanne?
No, I just remember beginning to feel the shift in the room at the end of the first round, and then going around and watching people's faces and watching, how that the eyes are the window to the soul sort of thing, but watching literally a shift in their demeanour as we went around the room. And I remember, Jean, we finished and got back to you, and I was going, "Oh my goodness." And Jean went, "Oh," like it had really hit home. And Tara Sokas came up to me afterwards, and she said, "I cannot tell you how amazing that was." And so, again, that sense of a gift we gave them. But for me, it also, there was a little bit of chastising internally going on, because I was saying, I take this way of becoming family of knowing one another, of making connection, I take it for granted. That's what we're going to do. Now, I know not every Pākehā New Zealand does, but I'm fortunate enough that even in good old PCANZ, we have paid more attention to that than we once did in the past. And, we have our church marae at Ohope, and I had been down there in May and we had been told, the women ministers who'd gathered quite clearly by Reverend Tamiana Thrupp, who gave the opening call to worship at the dawn service up at Waitangi. Tamiana had reminded us that that was our marae. That was our turanga waiwai as women ministers in PCANZ. So I had that. But this experience, I went, oh, we take it a little bit for granted. That's what we're going to do. It's not that we don't value it, but being in a different place with a different group, it just completely blew me away how that was done. The one thing that did make me giggle slightly, there was one chap who went, well, where I live, it's really flat. There really isn't kind of a geographical landmark. And I remember, we never thought about that because we've got hills all over the place. So it was
that is his geographical. Yeah, that is his geographical characteristic. Yeah. The plains, the Great Plains. Yeah.
So that was an interesting. How do you interpret that when the space you inhabit is not the space that the the way of doing things has come from? So it was amazing, just incredible. Yeah.
Do you think did it seem as if it made the American participants think differently about their relationship with Indigenous people or how they view Indigenous people?
I think for some in that workshop because there were comments made, and I think there were some who definitely were going to go away and give that some more thought. Yeah.
And also there were those who already have engaged in that quite a lot, and so they were able to share some of the connections. One of the people in the group, I won't say who it is because I'll keep their confidentiality, but they talked about never having known their father, having no idea who their father is. So it was a real challenge for them to address the thing around who are your parents and where are they from. And, we often think, oh, maybe we shouldn't ask a question like that. But they weren't saying, I don't think you should have not asked the question, but just know that that is my experience. And so we held that experience with honour. Yeah. One of the things that it reminded me of is we've talked about it in our EFM board quite a lot, and we've attempted it in some of the places where we live, is the significance of doing some pilgrimages as part of EFM, where we explore the story by going to the places and engaging with the people of those places. And that means that we have to engage with these same issues of where are we from and what is our whakapapa, and who might we have misplaced by having a place for ourselves here, and what is our relationship with those people, and how do we build on that for a positive future, a future that has more richness to it. And so I think, if there was one thing that I came home wanting to commit to doing more of, it is provide those kind of opportunities for people to engage, to make relationships with tangata whenua, with places that are really significant in our faith story in this land, and to both immerse ourselves but also find ways to invite others into that experience as well. Yeah. We're going to break into small groups again, and I will put up on the chat Just have to find the words first. Two little questions for us. The first is, what has hearing about Jean and Leanne's experience with this workshop in particular left you thinking about? And what hopes do you have for the future of EFM in New Zealand? I'm just going to put those in the chat. And Mike will send us off again.
Okay, we're back together. So we just want to share final comments with you. But one of the things we would like to say is that if you would have any insights you want to share, and please email them to Mike and he'll send them to us. It's probably going to be the easiest way to do it. Or if you've got my email, you can send it directly to me, but emailing them to Mike and then sending them to Jean and I is a good way to do it. So, Rosie, I'm so pleased to see you're in that lovely botanical garden again. Jean, did you have something?
We've got just a little bit of prayer to finish with, but I just wondered whether we could just go round the whole group and maybe just say a couple of words or a short phrase that for you sums up how it's been to be part of this double event or single event if it's only been single, just before we wind up with some prayer.
Oh,
Rosie can't hear us. Can you hear us now? I'll write something in the chat. I'll just write here.
Well, while you're typing, Jean, I shall talk. Shall I say I've been pleased by how energetic people feel about EFM. And it felt to me like I might be tending the deathbed. Now I'm feeling hopeful again.
Yes, there was a lot of energy in our training group yesterday, in our mentor training group.
Yeah, we had this guy, Ben, some of his delightful playfulness, Roger?
Anyone else got one or two words or a short phrase?
What made you come up with the name Purring Daffodils?
Well,
I know that.
it was the metaphor we had in a theological reflection. And we've been two different groups that had come together and we needed a new name. And this metaphor had been proposed by someone one night in order to kind of capture the experience we were trying to express. And it was really powerful theological reflection. And we decided, let's be the purring daffodils. We're kind of natural, got our own beauty. We rejoice and delight in being who we are. We're purring daffodils.
A good name.
I'm just sending Rosie a couple of messages.
Yeah, I guess, Jean, if I was to have a phrase, I think EFM is still very relevant and very sought after. And when I looked at when I reflect on the two courses we run over here, people were very enthusiastic to be part of them and continuing that enthusiasm, I think. So it's, perhaps EFM's time has sort of come around again.
Oh,
I'm enjoying learning more about it at every session and things like that. I didn't realise how long it was,
yeah.
But that was nice to hear that, last week's session or the week before, but no, it's a lot more to it than I thought but it also shows its depth.
Yeah.
Well, I always remember, as David said 2 weeks ago, this is one of the longest running theological training partnerships in the world.
Mm.
And that blew me away.
Anything from you, Jenny?
Yes, I.
Either Jenny? Got two Jennies.
EFM is about us, not me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
Excellent.
I really value that. So I pray that it may continue to be about us, not me. Also, I really pray that it may not become a theological course for the spiritually elite, but rather that it's open to all people, so that it's not intimidating, but it's an opportunity for growth from the bottom up. Yes.
I went to my first meeting last week, and I enjoyed the feeling of fellowship there, and I enjoyed what we did. I got a lot out of it.
Awesome, Pat. Welcome to the family.
Thank you.
You too, Don.
You are. Thank you.
Rosie says, encouraging but wondering what the future holds for EFM in New Zealand. And Jenny says, I need to go, but thanks. I was mentor and trainer in the 1980s and have been just a supporter ever since, but I will continue that with enthusiasm. Blessings.
Well, I have an EFM whakapapa as well, because my mother was one of the first people to do it in New Plymouth in the 1980s.
Right. I have some prayers. Can everybody see them?
Yep.
I'm going to do something weird. I'm going to invite you to turn your sound off. I'm going to invite you to mute so that we can say these prayers together. You'll only be able to hear my voice and your own. But be reassured that everyone else can only hear their own voice and mine. And that way we can sometimes Zoom, it's a toss-up between whether we have everybody's voice and then it's really clunky and hard to get through the words. So I've decided this time we're just going to do it this way. So please say the words in bold, and then we're going to sing, and then I'll say this last prayer and we'll say Amen together. So, blessed is anyone you choose to live with, to live with you. Your house is an inspiration, a hallowed place. You spread your justice, God our Saviour, across the world to the farthest oceans. So in this corner of the earth, we wonder at your deeds. At the meeting of East and West, we sing your praise. The Lord is my light and salvation. In God I trust, in God I trust. Te maura makue, te oranga moku, te atua, o whirinaki. The Lord is my light and salvation. In God I trust, in God I trust. Te mara makue, te oranga moku, te atua, o whirinaki. God, give us rain when we expect sun. Give us music when we expect trouble. Give us tears when we expect breakfast. Give us dreams when we expect a storm. Give us a stray dog when we expect congratulations. God, play with us, turn us sideways and around. Amen.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Jean. Thanks, Mike, for organising us, for coming, and thank all of you for giving up your Sunday evening to be part of this group. Jean, I was just thinking of us, for those of us in the lower half of the North Island at the moment, rain instead of sun.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why I chose it.
All
Well,
right.
Oh,
You be
thanks,
safe.
everyone. We weren't able to come to David's session 2 weeks ago because we were in Adelaide where our son got married. But was it recorded?
It
Yes.
was recorded.
Yep.
I will post again the link on Facebook tomorrow. That I won't.
Well, we're not
Oh,
on Facebook either.
no,
So
anyway.
do you think you could email it?
I will email you the links for this one and for all of them. Yeah. And
Thank
they will be in the March newsletter when it comes out.
Okay, lovely. Thank
Right.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You, everybody too.
Good night.
Ka kite.
bye-bye. Ka kite. Thank you very much.